Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we are starting the Evil Within. This is an interesting scenario. It's unprecedented in my channel. I've wanted to play the Evil Within one, but I've never been able to really justify paying the money for it because of the fact that this is a 2014 game and it had a bunch of those hooks of modern games where there's a season pass and there's DLC, and even if you get the base game for cheap on a Steam sale, you still end up paying nearly $25 for a 3-year-old game, which is probably a little too expensive for something like The Evil Within. From the reception I heard it got, it's not a bad game. It is the spiritual successor of the Resident Evil series, made by the creator of the Resident Evil series. However, it's not being made by Capcom. Instead, it's made by Bethesda. And so, it, at least on launch, was a little herky-jerky in the graphics. So, I may have to mess with the graphic settings. I think I've got it right, and hopefully there have been enough driver updates. This was one of those games where for many months you were getting NVIDIA driver updates specifically just to get the Evil Within to work. But you're running at 30 frames per second, which is laughable. I may have to turn off aliasing. I may have to turn down shadow quality, turn off SSAO. I may have to turn off reflections. I'm not sure about that. Any of that, really. Until I start playing the game. But on top of that, and I guess I didn't finish that thought, the reason why this is an unprecedented situation for me and my channel is this game was graciously donated to me by a fan named Travis. So once again, I want to thank Travis for that gift. He simply wanted me to have the game. He thought I would enjoy it. I've always implied or said during my live streams and videos that if someone bought me a game, it would probably pay me a lot more than what YouTube pays me in ad revenue, and it would almost certainly twist my arm to play that game, at least do a spotlight for it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm playing The Evil Within because I was given The Evil Within, and it was certainly something I wanted to play. It was something on my wish list. Travis over-delivered and looked at my wish list because he had friended me on Steam and gifted me 2 other games on top of this one even, when he was really only talking about giving me 1. So I'll get around to playing those, I imagine, at some time too. But this will be airing in a specific special time slot, and I'll be putting special effort and extra work into playing this game and getting it out as a pre-recorded series faster than I normally do. That's more than enough setup for people who aren't interested in any of that. There's not a lot of graphic settings considering how this game, at least when it originally came out. Storyline-wise, I don't know a ton about it, but for the most part, my understanding is this is the creator of Resident Evil not really caring so much about story and instead just wanting to have a series of vignettes, maybe even you would say like an anthology series of horror scenes in which the character plays a character. The player plays a character and goes through scary situations. The other thing that might be cool here is, right now for my computer setup, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5, and, well, probably Resident Evil 5, I haven't tested, but and Resident Evil 6 didn't run too well. So, with this being on id Tech and Resident Evil probably not being on id Tech, this is id Tech 5, there's a chance this game will be like Resident Evil, but actually run, which would be very nice, although I'd still very much prefer to get Resident Evil 4 to run and not have the problems it has. Anyways, too much setup. Let's begin the game. You get your standard brightness thing. For me, leaving it at 50 is perfectly fine. For people, that's a little spooky, the wheelchair moving out of nowhere. For people on YouTube, you might need to turn your brightness up. I know if you're streaming YouTube through like a video game console, it often will make the brightness extremely dark. I really can't pander to that too much, however, so I'm gonna just leave everything by default and hopefully everybody can see what they're supposed to see. The brightness adjustment sliders on games always are weird because clearly you could set it higher and see more detail, but the game itself doesn't want you to see all the detail. It really only wants you to see half the detail, so that darks actually look like inky black dark colors instead of black looking like a brightly backlit sort of grayish black color. So brightness, and a lot of times it really is more about color balances of the whites and the blacks than it is about general brightness. Often in TV settings there is a intensity, or it's called something else, where you can turn up the brightness of red, green, and blue pixels separate from the white and black colors. Alright, so I'm just realizing I'm gonna have to move my mouse upside down, or every time I happen to bump it or shake it, it's gonna appear. Alright. So we have two difficulty settings here, which almost certainly, since there's 3 difficulty settings on the menu, that you're gonna have to play it on survival to unlock a hardcore mode. Let's see what it says. Once the difficulty level has been selected, it cannot be raised during gameplay, but it can be lowered. Lowering the difficulty in gameplay will restart the chapter. The difficulty setting can be changed in the game via the options menu. And unless there's some kind of achievements tied to this, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to start with survival at least. So let's begin with survival. And the game crashed. Wasn't expecting that. That was an unforeseen turn of events. Let's see. Did it crash because my firewall? Nope. Let's try that again. Yeah, the one thing I hadn't done while testing this is actually start a game. And they've gotten to the point where the menu sections of games are kind of their own separate executable even. So it is possible, although not very common, that a menu might work, but actually playing the true game doesn't. That would be something you would really want to test for. And that would certainly put me in a weird position if it turned out that this game didn't run, and then I tried to like refund something that was gifted to me. I imagine the money would go back to Travis. No, it worked this time. This game was buggy at the beginning, and we're already seeing some bugginess. Hopefully, cross our fingers, that's the only crash we ever see. This is good looking 2014 animation, although even in that 3 years you can see it's slightly lacking in detail around the ears. Hmm.
Joseph, you think there's a connection?
Hmm.
It's a possibility. I believe the records were sealed.
Hmm. You can kind of see that this is a Japanese person animating animating an American detective agency, because I've never seen anybody have a badge on their gun holster like that guy, like, or dressed like that at all.
Junior Detective Kidman. Any thoughts?
And like you would call somebody Junior Detective Kidman. That's a very Japanese thing to say, is you're a junior detective when referencing somebody. And a lot of these characters feel like direct copies of famous, well-known Resident Evil characters or archetypes, just from the animation style.
Connolly, contact dispatch and let them know what's happening. Joseph, Kidman, you're with me. We're gonna have a look around.
Right.
So you're gonna end up in a crazy different world. So there's a chance we're already in that crazy different world as soon as we saw the thing. Or very possibly this is all a dream. Interesting. The game has me choose who I'm gonna follow, so I'm gonna go follow this lady. This is a very cinematic. The camera's bobbing up and down way too much for my steps, and out of sync with my steps.
Rain is gonna wash away any evidence.
So there's been a lot of police already called to this mental hospital, which is going to give us more characters to try and save. I don't believe you can do anything. And see, that felt like you probably chose somebody just by walking one way or the other. You chose to hear at least one line of dialogue. Like, a guy with his gun shown and black gloves as a detective just doesn't make sense. And if we were playing the Japanese version of this game, I imagine the faces would be slightly more Japanese. That's pretty typical of games. Well, it was for a long time. Maybe they've stopped doing that so much. See, this is supposed to be an amazingly cool looking cinematic experience. And 3 years later, it still looks fine. It still looks very good, but it's starting to show its age very much. There's something to be said about games pushing the limits of 3D rendering technology and realistic graphics, and as they push the limits, it seems to spring back after the next game comes out, and you see something like The Witcher 3, and that looks almost twice as good as the previous game of the same year. A different AAA game of the same year.
Smells like blood.
Alright, stay sharp.
Now, I guess I don't have a gun, or I'm not pulling out the gun.
Check it out. Don't let anyone else through this door.
But
Can be an extra set of eyes.
We don't know what's happening here. You're a backup.
so we leave the girl, and there's just blood everywhere. So there's some kind of connection to the real world and the fake horrific world that we're going to end up in. And I guess I'm slightly spoiling what's going to happen. It seems like clearly somebody was murdered. And was it through bullet holes or just blunt force? Seems like people were just thrown. Here we have a visual glitch. Or perhaps intentional. Maybe that was supposed to be horrific. I see some other things falling over. Frankly, at this point, a full armored SWAT team should be appearing. Blood is dripping off the edge and it's not animated that well.
Are you injured?
There's somebody alive.
Can't be real. Impossible. Awakens.
I've got him. The security cameras might tell us something.
I imagine whenever I get around to playing Evil Within 2, you'll probably see some significant improvements in graphics and just gameplay ability. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that this director and this team has worked with this engine. And so it's kind of understandable.
What the hell?
He seems to just move super fast and touch people. Or stab people. There you have a rat. That rat is very smoothly animated. No hair really on it at all. And so you can already see what I'm talking about as far as moving from vignette to vignette, scene to scene, not really caring. Very shiny, very, very shiny knife sticking out of this body. I can just see this grotesque monster. Did I mention this was a horror game? I guess if I haven't at this point, you probably would have known. But I did say it was a continuation of the Resident Evil series, and I think people would have probably figured that out. So now the game is allowing me to swing, now that he's turned his back. And you're obviously going for this knife to cut yourself down. And I assume the idea is we are pre-programmed to miss it several times. And see, now he's missing his jacket and his gun. So maybe he had a gun in the previous scene and just chose not to use it. And immediately I want to click like the right stick and see if there's some detective vision. I'm used to too many games like that. So the right bump allows me to stealth. So I'm sneaking. And I guess when you're sneaking, it might give you some indication. Can I climb up this pipe and out somewhere? No. Can I open this door?
Locked. Shut.
With the X button? There's a lot of button presses that I'm just figuring out instead of the game telling me. Which, sadly, you still kind of need tutorials in every single game because the controls, while pretty standard these days, there's still enough of a of a variance to like make you question specifically, should you push something, should we do something. An ordinary keyring found in a mental hospital basement. They were used long before the hospital's modern security system was put in. There we go. And so one is hoping that I got the keys to this door so I can sneak away from this guy. Yes. Now is not the time to go running and gunning, although by the time you're done with a game like this, one assumes that is the case. You see that angel item, I think, is not. I don't know why it keeps pointing me to an angel thing. Whether that's my goal or something to look out for. You can see there's floating particles in the air. I'm not sure what that's from either. Might just be an indication. Well, no more sneaking, and now we're just running. And see, I don't know if I'm actually... Yeah, I am controlling it. And see, this is not a real world. Like, nobody's gonna have built something like this, and now I'm sliding, trying to avoid explosion and slicers. Like, it's one thing that a magical person may have killed everybody in the mental hospital. It's another thing that the mental hospital would have been magically changed into a world full of other monsters and weapons and traps. Of course, like I said, the director of this game did not want to have to explain any of this. He just wanted to show cool scenes, and even in Resident Evil, half the things were laughably different and awkward, and Resident Evil was partially known for its silliness. Now, he's hurt his leg, which means he's either going to stumble around for the rest of the game or he's going to magically heal himself. More than likely, he's going to magically heal himself. If this is something to pick up, I've yet to been told how to pick up anything. So, we're still in a tutorial section while also doing an introductory cutscene. I think I would have preferred if the tutorial section had me trapped in a room and just trying to escape a room without being chased. Being chased by the mechanism and having to do things fast. I'm not sure that added anything. See, there's way down here a light, but I'm not sure if this is worth dealing with. If there is some kind of collectible or something down there, I'm not even sure there are collectibles in this game like that. I'm not willing to get it. And his clothes dry as you're climbing out of the muck. So let's do our darndest. to try to avoid interacting with people. This seems just to be a monster closet. Or maybe a safe zone. So I assume this guy's gonna jump up on me. An old note from the sewer. Besides the lock gate at the far end of the sewer, there's a ladder that would take you to the old world. If you could make it through there, you would find an elevator leading outside. You would be the one who escaped. You might be the one who survived. And clearly the gate over that tells me I can't go there. I can't open this to see if there's some kind of thing in there. I can't open that. And I can't open this. It's interesting, you have the interactable chains and then non-interactable barbed wire. So we assume we're at this in the basement of the hospital. That may be the wrong assumption. Look how his head clips through this. This is probably because he's limping forward and they just didn't test that stance very much. Now, compared to the beginning of Resident Evil 4, it's a little quicker to get into the part where you're running and gunning and fighting zombies. That was a higher focus, I think, than this game is going to have it. This game, I believe, bullets are a little bit more rare and there's more of a focus to use a crossbow, which is something that was never a main weapon in Resident Evil games. It was usually a hugely overpowered special weapon you would get after a second or third playthrough. Let's see. Boiler room notes, stim operation test begins. Success, confirmation of brainwave synchronization, loss is minimal. Continuing experiment, agent collects the data. Anomaly occurs. Not with the subject. The stenographer claimed that they weren't feeling well and fell into a coma for a reason unknown. Doctor orders the stim system operated. Staff begin collapsing of nausea and falling unconscious one after another. Those who can still move plan to escape from the hospital, but the unknown reasons are unable to. Though the stim system should have been deactivated, subjects maintain bravery synchronization with the host. So some people's brains were synchronized, and then that synchronization seemed to allow them to synchronize with other people. I've recently just played a game where all of the dialogue was read out loud. Resident 2 Meter has a lot of problems and really isn't a great game. Maybe not even worth playing, but going from all of the collectible storyline dialogue being voice acted to having to read it myself is not a pleasant feeling. I thought that was surely going to trigger something. Just a checkpoint. There's a lot I know just from generally picking up reviews and general impressions of this game that I probably shouldn't know at this point of gameplay. So I've been spoiled a little bit. But honestly, I don't think the story is going to be the thing that sells this game as being great or not. I think it's going to be the gameplay and how the levels go, how the missions go. Is this really replayable? If it's like a Resident Evil game, the story never really mattered in Resident Evil games too much either. They were silly and kind of ridiculous. but the scenes were replayable and there was a desire to keep going forward. So this guy is looking for me, and we can hear our heartbeat. Good thing none of these bad guys are ever smart enough to just destroy things you can hide in. Or take the doors off lockers. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing here other than just waiting. But I also feel like if I just stay here forever, so apparently that symbol means it's safe now. And then the camera went right through his face. So I'm gonna have to sneak around there. And let's look at the tutorial here. Sneaking, enemy alertness icons, hiding. We haven't even thrown a bottle yet. And we haven't shot chains. Then pressing A to jump through over obstacles or through things. We haven't done that either. There seems to really be no saving of this game, which I guess is fine by me. So many games I've ended up lately having hundreds of different save files. This one, it's just all going to be checkpointing, and maybe there's, I mean, there's a load game, so there must be something that saves at some point, but it maybe you can only save at specific points in areas that we haven't reached yet. Well, that's going to be it for this first episode. You really didn't get too far. Part of that is 5 minutes of setup and the game crashing at the beginning, but also it is kind of a slow start. This is one of those stories that probably would have done better if there was a flash forward that showed us fighting and abilities where we had a bunch of weapons and you're fighting with every single weapon in the game completely upgraded against a large, powerful single enemy or large amounts of moderately powerful minions. That way this game would feel a little bit more actiony and a little bit less stealth. Because right now it's feeling very, very stealth, and I think it's not that stealth. Anyways, that's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and comment. All of that helps me with YouTube and tells them that my videos are worth watching. If you want a friend or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Google+, Steam, or Battle.net, which of course Travis chose to friend me on Steam, and that's how he was able to give me this game. Thanks again, Travis. I won't mention that it was a gift throughout the rest of the series. This, I suppose, is partially also a disclosure that since I didn't pay for this game, I'm not hugely invested in it either. As much as if I had paid $25 or $15 for this game. Anyways, that's it for this recording. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.